Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to confirm that you can hear me.
Good
Yes.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Okay, awesome. My name is Paul Erubami. I'm your host today on the FM Lunch Hour. And we have a very interesting topic to cover relating to how data acquisition analysis can lead to better decision making in facility management. And just before I jump into it, I would like to remind everyone of our ongoing bonanza for the FMMC 26, starting on January 12th. We want this to be our biggest, section yet. So because of that drive, we have given massive discounts, massive rebates, 200,000 off any of the options, whether virtual or physical you choose, in this month of October. A few people have already taken advantage of that offer. In November, in case you're not able to meet up in October, you still have the chance of getting off 150,000. And then in December, before December 20th, you'll be able to take off 10%, and everything reverts to the full price after the 20th. So between 28th and we starting the class on January 12th, it's going to be full fee. So I think now is the time to act. Now is the time to put your best foot forward, take advantage of what we have on offer. And for those who have been in the program in the last year, our big day is coming up in December. I think on the 13th. Let me see if I still have that date right. Yes, I think it's on December 13th, the second Saturday of December, that we have fixed for our big day, the annual graduation of elites, the elites in the FM industry. They will be joining the alumni that's getting stronger, and they will become the next big thing when it comes to FM, in terms of the impact they make in their workplaces, the impact they make in FM generally, because they have, acquired the skills and the knowledge to make such impact. So we look forward to welcoming all of you who are graduating this year, 2025. So those are two big announcements. I would like to, just generally say to everyone listening that our consultants at Max-Migold Limited are available for advisory, strategy, technology support for your operations. You must have seen, quite a few fires, including the very large one that happened that took some lives in Marina recently. If you're managing a high rise or any kind of facility where the public is invited, there are certain statutory compliance that you need to have in place. We can start you off by doing the audit and giving you a report of what defects and shortfalls you have. And then we can go on to the execution, where we'll now help you execute all the installations and whether it's signages, whether it's fire extinguishers, whether it's all kinds of electronics and smart devices that can improve your ability to react to emergencies. We will deliver those for you. There's also been a surge in requirements for asset tagging, asset registers. You really can't manage what you don't know. So call us, just send an email to service@maxmigold.com, and we will come out, do the inspections, create the detailed asset register, and produce tags to help you manage all of this. The good thing about our own tagging is that we will not just give you just a spreadsheet. We'll give you an application that you can always log on. When you scan the QR codes that will be installed on your assets, you can access your asset data. One more thing about the FM Mastercraft Diploma. For organizations sending in their teams to the FM Mastercraft Diploma, you get a whopping 50% off. That is something we do to support the industry. So bring in 10 of your staff and just pay half, pay for 5. And they will all be certified and begin to, work productivity magic and wonders for you in your organization. The cost will be pale in comparison to the value you'll be getting from that package. So just, send a WhatsApp chat 080-220-20122 or email training@maxmigold.com or service@maxmigold.com, and we will be out there within a day or two to sort you out and take on your requests. Okay. All right. So today we're looking at data source capacity management. So let me go to let me start with first subheading. Yes, how data-driven decision making is reshaping facility management careers, exploring the impact of analytics on facility management roles. So starting with basic understanding, when we make decisions based data, facts, and insights, not on guesswork or intuition, we say we are making data-driven decision. Not to the, to reduce the value of intuition and other ways of applying experience to making decisions at critical times. Data-driven decision making removes question, removes uncertainty, removes any kind of bias that your experience and intuition can introduce into your decision making. So in this session, we'll be talking about how to collect data. What kind of data should you be collecting? How to analyze them, extract insights, make decisions, and feedback into the entire process. Facility managers, basically everyone who works in the built environment, so in any environment today, you can optimize your operations by continually gathering data with which you improve the process. You can reduce costs significantly. There's no, gainsaying that fact. You can reduce costs significantly. Because with data carefully analyzed, you can predict what is likely going to happen. You can proactively put measures in place that cost you less than what it will cost you to react to a failure or breakdown. Okay, and then you can improve service delivery. One of the key data you'll be gathering is data of how you can track customer satisfaction. How many work orders were done, how many were done within SLA, and what does each customer say about 4 or 5 things regarding each work order. Analyzing that data gives you 2 sets of information. 1, on how you are doing, and 2, how the customers you are serving is perceiving what you are doing. Imagine what you can make out of that. You can improve your processes, improve how you are doing, improve your customer relationships and client interactions and communication for enhancing customer perception and how they see the value of what you are doing. And above all, you will no longer be reactive. You will be proactive in all that you do. You will have efficient plans in place. When you set up a schedule, a frequency of an activity, it will be based on data that you have gathered that shows that if you do this activity at this frequency, then you will get this kind of result. If you don't, you get the opposite of it. So you will be able to, with confidence, plan what needs to be done because you know the results that come out of any other approach. So basically, a summary of all I've been saying about why it's important that you as facility manager should improve your data awareness and skills and use data to make better decisions. First one is what I just finished, efficiency and cost optimization. But you see this part that has to do with predictive maintenance. This will not only save costs, but reduce downtime, minimize it drastically. Because you will not have equipment breaking down. You already anticipate when they will break down because you are gathering data on mean time between failures, gathering data on operating parameters like temperature, vibration, running time, and output metrics. And you're charting this data to give you, so you now have a set of data, a set of measures or ranges that represent optimal performance and a set of ranges that represents you're pushing the equipment is complaining already, right? So those are the thresholds you begin to monitor to ensure that it doesn't cross that threshold that might lead to a failure. And then, of course, you're able to personalize service delivery to your clients. You're able to provide transparent reporting that improves clients' experience because you are you understand based on feedback you've collected before what makes sense or what is important to these customers, and you are adjusting, adapting based on those. And then many times you have conflicting demand on your time, on your resources, funds that you have to spend. You have requirements to deploy staff to either A or B, and you're scratching your head to find out which one should you prioritize. Don't make any guesswork out of this. You need to be able to use the data to prioritize. It also helps you identify bottlenecks so you can prioritize tasks to boost workforce productivity. Because sometimes somebody says, oh, wait, let me finish first. And if you don't know how that wait, let me finish first translates to, let's say, if we give him 30 minutes or 1 hour to finish before we can do what we are doing next. He's one person doing that thing. And whatever he's doing, can it wait? Because there are 4 of us that wants to do this one, right? If we say, wait, let him finish what he's doing, that will not just be 1 hour. It will be 4 hours, 4 people waiting, right? So if you have that kind of mindset, that data-driven mindset, you will find a way to either separate them, make them no longer dependable, or make the 1 hour, job wait 1 hour while the 4 hours job completes theirs, right? So you are not prioritizing based on data. You are not thinking analytically, no longer by impulse. And it gets worse when you have situations where you maybe you want to service a generator, lights not available, and you want 200 people in the complex to wait. By the time you do the maths, you realize that that servicing you want to do at 10 a.m. in the morning is a huge waste of productive resources. Why would you want to hold 200 people down because generator is due for servicing? What are the mathematical risk of running it for another 4 or 5 hours till they close or finish their core activities in the business, and then you do the what are the risks? Do you have any kind of numbers to analyze such risk compared to the cost of having 200 people down tools just to wait for FM to do servicing? Sometimes we act based on emotions and sentiments, and we play this card of, let me do my work so that I can enable yours, right? But that sentiment does not hold when data is applied, because you are basically disrupting the core business to do your job when you refuse to see the negative impact of your so-called good job at the wrong time. Okay. And then when you are making decisions around what maintenance strategy to deploy, right? Whether to put it on a reactive run to failure strategy, a preventive strategy, or a predictive strategy, you need to also consider time to deliver each of the strategies, the costs that it takes, the downtime, for each of the strategy, and how you can schedule and plan the work for each of them, including the workers' skills and time it takes to do the work. By the time you put all of this on a spreadsheet, you will be able to decide which strategy to deploy to each asset type. Okay, so it's no longer going to be based on, my bosses, this is how they do it, or this is how the other department does, the other organization does theirs. You will be able to analyze and get a sense of what's best for your organization. So as an FM, what are your data sources? If you have any system that monitors the building, whether it's a building management system or Internet of Things, IoT sensors, they will feed data. So ambient temperature will be coming in, the temperature of the chilled water in the central cooling system is coming in. A relationship is being drawn with how ambient temperature inside is affected by a certain climatic or weather temperature outside compared to the chilled water temperature inside the central air conditioner. So those variables will affect how the temperature inside will work, right? So although there are certain automations that are already set within the BMS or set up in the platform, the IoT monitoring platform, that these formulas can be worked in. As FM, these data are interacting to give us an optimal condition. So if I set my internal space to be at 23 degrees, and I now want the temperature of the chilled water to adjust itself to produce coolness, that when the air handling unit blows it into my building, it will produce 23 degrees for the ambient temperature. I now need that connection, that visibility to the data. So I will not have too hot or too cold anymore. And even the automations that I will set will receive data from those sensors that I've set in place. So monitoring and controlling is a function of data. So if I put a presence sensor here and tell the presence sensor if nobody is here, then instruct the lights and the ACs to go off. That presence sensor is now using a counter, a data system that counts how many people are in the room. When people leave one by one and the last person has gone, if it turns to 0, then the logic kicks in, hit the breakers for lights and air conditioners. So in essence, there's this huge source of data. The water you consume in your facility, how long it takes to empty out your tank, how many liters you produce. Even if you are not uh, picking up the data, it does not mean that those activities are not taking place. And that's why it's always a loss when you decide not to install certain meters and hope that everything will work fine and there will be no problem. It will be okay until you get to a point where you now need to justify what you are doing, make sense of what you are doing to management, especially when there's cash crunch and you're trying to demand all kinds of investment from the organization. That's when you realize that you've been wasting so many years of your career, because that big break for you will depend on data. We do a lot of maintenance activities, both the planned maintenance, preventive maintenance on the schedule, and the reactive ones that we are called to come and fix. What data are you capturing? Some people sound like, oh, we don't have a software, but even if you don't have a software, what information does your paperwork order captures? How is that information filled into logbooks, a common spreadsheet, where you can manipulate and get trends and get patterns from this data? It's very important that you have data, information on your maintenance management systems. Everything you do creates a series of data. How do you capture them? If I have a software, it makes everything easy. Somebody goes to a particular asset, maybe an AC, to do a service on the AC. Person scans the tag, QR code on it, which opens that AC in my assets inventory inside the software. And then I can check back and see when the last service, what parts were replaced, and so on and so forth. And then upon my inspection, I'll go to today's date and enter my observations in today's inspection. And then when I finish doing the servicing, I'll record specific service activities I performed today. And then I will also record the state of the equipment after I packaged it back and started working. That is stored in the system. And if there are costs related to that activity, let's say it's a vendor that is doing it and the vendor needs to submit an invoice at the end of the day. Once that vendor puts that information into that system, it's automatically populated with other activities of work that are done for determination of how much the vendor will be paid at the time of payment. So in essence, you are carrying out the activities and you are pulling the data into a system that organizes it and helps you move from one process stage to the next process stage. But the beauty of that whole system is that that data is always going to be available in that system. So if 2 years, 3 years down the line, it's now time to replace the AC and somebody is trying to say, oh, no, there's no need to replace the AC. We can keep managing it. You can refer to that data. You can fetch that stretch of data, last 5 years of that air conditioner, and show things like mean time between failures. How often does it have a defect that I have to be called in, for example? How often, and then costs, overall cost for reactive repairs compared to preventive maintenance, and so on. And so how long it takes, man hours that goes into repairing and maintaining it, how many hours it was out of circulation for planned maintenance and for disrupted unplanned maintenance period. All of that detail can now be presented to management to say, this has been the experience of these assets. You don't need to remember. It's only at the time you were doing it, you were capturing the data. Years down the line, you're using that data accumulated, disaggregated in any kind of format to perform an analysis to send a memo for approval. Anybody seeing data, don't say no. You will never hear not approved. No, your data makes sense. Because your comment will be, this is going to be an implication of maintaining status quo compared to listening to my recommendation to replace it now. The next 3 years, this is how the trajectory will be. So I will not plot, costs, disruption time, repair, man hours, and so on. I will not plot it, show the implication of holding it on for the next few years. Anybody in management will look at that data and immediately say approved. Nobody argues with data. Nobody argues with data. So if you don't have a software, everybody working in the workplace today have at least a access to a word processing document and a spreadsheet, at least. So I tell everyone, if you don't know how to use any tool, don't even know how to browse the internet to search for information, you must know how to use Excel. Spreadsheets have a special power when it comes to data processing and analysis, data capture. There are certain rules and patterns you must observe when feeding information into a spreadsheet to ensure that you can analyze that data in the future. For example, if you buy two packets of screws, right? Instead of having in one cell where you're putting the material list, two packets in a cell, you put the item in a separate column and you put the units of measure in another column, so that when you put two, it will just be two, one item inside that cell. The next cell is what says packet. So if you want to now add every packet of nails that you have used in doing a particular job for the last 10 years, you would just put in a formula on that spreadsheet that adds the 2 plus the 3 plus the 5 plus the 2 plus the 1 across. Because if you now put two packets inside that cell, for example, that is no longer calculatable. The cell will not recognize it as a number that can be analyzed. And that's how many people use spreadsheets to create confusion and data becomes useless. So let me get back to data sources. If you do have IoT sensors, ambient temperature sensors, humidity sensors, occupancy sensors and counters, energy consumption meters that captures energy readings at various levels, water meters that captures water use, occupancy of all types in all aspects of your facilities. These data come into a central management portal. There are many actions you have set to be triggered by the automation, but the key is that the data is also available. If you generate manual logs, let's take your generator monitoring log. So the technicians go there in the morning, they put in all of those fuel number level, battery reading, temperature when it's operating, starting run hours, closing run hours, and so much of those data they put in a notebook in the basement. That information should be copied into a spreadsheet continuously. In the logbook or notebook, they're basically useless. You cannot track, you cannot predict anything, you cannot analyze in that book. That's like a dead store. But if you now transcribe that information into a spreadsheet, you can now apply formulas, you can now extract summaries, you can now make deductions from the data. So that's the manual approach. The manual approach is not just paper logbooks, but and work orders, but transcription of that information into a spreadsheet. So that's why I spent some time talking about how important it is for you as a facility manager to learn how to use spreadsheets. It is the basic data analytics tool that you'll ever come across. Many times I've seen people who they're going to take extra courses in data analytics, going to take courses in different things regarding data, and then I give them a small set of data in Excel. They begin to struggle to manipulate Excel. So before you become a data analyst or whatever we call professional jobs in this area today, you want to know how to use Power BI and so many of those skills. Start with Excel. Excel Basic, Excel Intermediate, and Excel Advanced. That's the foundation of data analytics. Once you've known those ones and you can collect data and analyze inside it, you're up already. Okay. Think about your financial processes. you want to request funds for ABC and you're asked to bring justification. You don't have historical data. How will you provide justification? Even if you have historical data, you do not have a proper order of presentation and analysis that leads to conclusions that you've already made in your request, then your request is dead on arrival. Your budgets require you to make certain estimations. Those estimations, what we call a forecasting of expenses, depends on historical data that when charted and plotted can give you a prediction of what the next budget requirement will be. And when you go to defend your budget, for example, it becomes easy to say these are the basis or premises for my conclusions, how I arrived at these numbers. So if somebody is trying to tear it down, cut it, knock it aside, and so on and so forth, present them with data. If somebody acts in the presence of data against a conclusion that is obvious, especially when that conclusion aligns with corporate strategy, that person knows the risk he is taking. You are well documented, you've done your job well. And the same thing with employee data. Many of us employ people and we cannot account for what they do with the 8 hours we pay for every day. You just know that they go to work and then they come back. And so many things that should have been done are not done because nobody is creating a timesheet with schedule of activities and using a checklist to confirm that those activities have been done, and then using analysis to compare every time you pay somebody a salary or pay a person the benefits. Can you say this is the value that the person has provided? It becomes a problem because at the end of the day, people will want to get paid. And when the money they are being paid is no longer meeting their needs or satisfying their expense requirements, they ask for more. And we all look at it in that direction. It's no longer enough. Let's get more. Let's get more. What metrics are you using to determine whether work is being done, whether the value of that so-called effort that requires more payment is actually being achieved? That's where performance management data comes in. You track what people do. So somebody comes to work and goes home, and then the person cannot really pin down one tangible value he created today, and that has to be paid for. So data will, there are times where you have a team of 6 or 5 in a site, and at the end of the month, 200 work orders were actually implemented, executed. And 200 work orders, you might find that one person out of the 5 did more than 100, more than half of those work orders at the end of the month. But who is checking? Everybody gets paid equally. So next month and subsequent month, people dodge work more and more. They waste time more and more in doing just one work for the whole day, for example. And the whole team is dragged down because no one actually tracks the data on what was done by the end of the month. And when it's time to actually give a bonus or reward people for their performance, we may use, how would I put it? We might use metrics or decision thinking approaches that are not data driven. They're not data driven. So what you see is that they will probably the person that is loudest, the oldest in the team, the longest serving will get the credit. And that is not the person actually adding the value. Sentiment sets in because there's no data. If you have proper data in place, there will be no sentiment. Okay. So when organizations advance, to the level of sustainability, they've gone from survival. When you are at survival stage, you're basically trying to make sure things work. You're basically just trying to prevent frequent breakdowns. You're trying to put things in place for a steady operation. That's where the organization is. That's where your FM department is at survival. You move from that level to resilience, where you have fully documented processes for making sure things work. You are now trying to have backups for the unanticipated eventualities, right? You're not trying to ensure that If something happens that is beyond your control, to obstruct, stop, or disrupt what you have in place that is currently working, mind you, you sorted out that it works when you came out of survival. What will be your backup plan? That's where resilience comes in. So risk management, emergency preparedness, business continuity plans, all the audits we put in place to manage our processes, quality management system. These are all operating at that level. Now, once your organization matures, fully documented with plan A and plan B for virtually everything that's important, you begin to aspire towards what we call sustainability, or ESG, as is summarized, environment, sustainability, and governance. This is where the organization wants to announce that it has matured, that it's making positive impact on the earth and the world, and these are the numbers to justify that. So organizations will now begin to measure impact on people, well-being of workers, how it's supporting community initiatives, how it's empowering local people, and most of this is FM related. They will need numbers on how they're impacting the environment, how we're conserving water, how we're conserving energy, how we are deploying renewable sources and reducing our dependence on sustainable energy sources. That's environmental. As the organization aspires to that level of reporting, they will need the FM to have data. How many of us know the carbon footprint of our organizations? There are systems for calculating this. You make entries of all the activities, you make entries of all the fuel types and how much of it you consume. Everyone have coefficients, right? That once you put them in, it tells you the amount of carbon impacts that the operation is having. Organizations that get to that level, they will employ an ESG consultant. Once the ESG consultant come in, you start asking questions. Those questions will be directed straight to the FM, who has not been measuring. Is it how much energy per person? I have 200 people using my office. And I know that my energy bill from the disco is so 1,000 kilowatts. And I also know that the liters of diesel I consume is hundreds of thousands of liters. But those two energy sources have different impacts. I'll have to provide that information and the information of the disco and the diesel, and that calculation will be done. What is my impact on the environment from using this source of energy compared to if I have solar and the rest? So bottom line is, these high-level self-actualization, situations organizations get into, where they want to show the world that we are a good place to work, we are a good positive impact on the environment and the economy, they need the FM to have data. So it's not really something that you can wish away. If they look at you and you are not the data focused person, they don't see that you have worked with presenting sensible analysis in the past. They will basically look for someone else to come and replace you. You can't help it, because once the time arrives, they see you as not up to scratch in that regard, and then they want to either put somebody above you or just probably get rid of you. So how do we, build a data-driven FM culture? So internalizing the process of acquisition, analysis, and application of data. Have clear objectives of what you will do with the data, why you need certain data, define them. Many people have reports that were given to them by management, or they made it out of management's concern about their work, and those reports do not contribute to strategic improvement or contribution to the organization. So you need to have aligned metrics. Where's my organization going now? What are we trying to achieve strategically? It is those objectives of the overall organization that I will take, and I will not create what I will measure from our operation that provides inputs into those strategic objectives. Then, of course, there will be need for data tools for effective data collection. Technology will be required, even if technology as basic as meters that you go and read and then write down what you see. It's a technology, right? But if you can have those meters and those meters can transmit their data into a central database that you can create a dashboard around, then terms of that is even better, okay? And then train the team on data literacy. Why do we keep data? I know organizations where they started a waste consignment register. Every time waste comes, instead of just dumping it and walking away, they put a small a logbook, a hardback logbook somewhere close by. So by the time you get to the waste bin, you hang your refuse on a scale, you see the reading, and you write type of refuse and kilogram of the reading, and then you drop it. Now, if you don't train people on the reason for why you have to gather that waste, data, what you are going to see over time is they just come in there, look at the scale and ignore it, throw the refuse there, write any number on your notebook. Just the same way technicians will write the temperature of the same, all those readings of your generator, they just make it up on a daily basis without actually looking, because they've not imbibed that culture of acquiring data itself. So we need training to help them understand why they are doing what they are doing. Because this guy has been keeping that log for all his career, 15 years as a technician, and had not seen any results for keeping that data. So at some point, he just will feel righteousness. I don't even know why they ask me to. They just keep writing rubbish in there. It becomes a problem. And then as you use data, analyze data, and make decisions out of it, let everybody see the impact. They become more accountable. They are more willing to improve because they see that the data they are collecting is having an impact. Okay, so practical applications, data on occupancy, activities of your building users can help you manage your staff allocation. How many cleaners to put on the floor, for example? Is it two per floor? What's going on in each floor? Why do I have to put two? There are some floors that probably will need 4, whereas some floors will need 1. That comes out of understanding the level of activity in the building, just to allocate cleaners, right? And then you have technicians. You want to decide how many technicians to have. And many of us just do 1 plumber, 1 electrician, 1 carpenter. As if that doesn't make sense. Based on what are you even doing that? You might end up, looking at the data, number of work orders are coming, and realize that you need 3 electricians and no plumber at all, right? Because the plumbing, repairs that come double-lined plumbing system that does not leak, right? So why do I have to do 111 just arbitrariness? There's no data that supports it. And worse still, you get to the point where you're working with one basically doing nothing, and you're pushing management to employ more to support the one that is doing everything, instead of even using that data to cross-train and ensure that the one that is doing 40 work in the whole month is able to learn the skill within 1 month to support the one that is doing 200 work orders in a month, so that it balances out 120 instead of 40 200. And then, of course, training program, because we will be taking performance metrics, the average time it takes to fix something for each of the workers, their reporting quality. There's so many things that we can pick up and use that to know their gaps, so we can set up training programs for them. Health and safety monitoring, air quality, emergency readiness data, complaints that come from people who use the building, and so on and so forth. Those data can be used to plan health and safety, outcomes, plan drills, plan safety training, improve on our processes, because we are counting on safe act, on safe conditions, and we're using this data to know where the problems are coming from. We can fix a lot of problems. And then, of course, smart technology. These automate routine tasks that bring information that helps us improve on an ongoing basis. I talked about IoT, and now we now have those IoT in platforms like Home Assistant, Things Board, any software where that data can now interact with AI. So AI now is embedded in the software, waiting for the data to come in, mapping out those trends and patterns of this data and making a recommendation. That's the beauty of about how to make so much sense about all the data. I can tell the AI exactly what I'm concerned about, and it can use the data, make those analyses, and give me the kind of inference that will make my life easier. Processes can be streamlined. Because we are gathering data, we now know that our processes are flawed. What do we have in our process? What policies do we have in place that is leading to a result that we don't desire, or really slow outcome that we want to achieve? We can use data find streamline our procedures. And then, of course, your maintenance scheduling. I've had this, concern for a while where, we just have a certain interval for doing certain things because it's preventive. And we just continue with that approach. But if we gather data on how that interval being fixed results in varying amount of breakdowns over time, we can create a degradation curve that tells us how to adjust the intervals for maintenance. If you were doing something at 300 hours intervals and you were getting one breakdown in 3 months, and you maintain it at 300 hours per interval, and your breakdowns increase to 4. Because you have this data, you cannot change your interval to 200 hours deliberately, because 4 breakdown is a lot of loss, and I don't want that to happen. So I'll that from a time breakdown in this 3 months period to shortening it, to 200 hours. There's a loss of increased frequency, which, something I probably do 3 times a year, 4 times a year. Now I have to do it 6 times a year. That's additional cost, for example. Compare that cost to the loss of a higher mean time between failure. You see how intelligent your scheduling can become. And when somebody says, oh, why are you wasting money? This service should be done every 300 hours. Why are you doing it 200 hours? You bring in your data and say, this equipment is aging. This is the indication. Mean time between failure is increasing. And if we continue at 300 hours, we'll probably have 10 breakdowns in a quarter. And this is the cost implication of those number of breakdowns. So you can just be making sense, from the data because you are keeping them. And then same thing with vendor performance. They work for you, you record, how they behave with time, with customer satisfaction, and so on. And then you use that in your next SLA with them and deciding whether they will work with you or not going forward. Same thing with, we've talked about IoT sensors. It helps you to predict what is happening, take decisions, and map how your operations and use of that space will be improved. I've talked about this ESG thing, environmental data, energy consumption, water consumption, waste metrics, social metrics like workforce training, community engagement, and impact of your space on people. Are they getting sick? Because ensuring adherence to ethical practices and industry standards. Every time you send a report to your organization, is driven by data, or say some or most or whatever. We'll just say wishy-washy things in our reports. We should be conscious of how data impacts the report that we present. And that's why I always say, if you are creating reports, let them be objective enough so that when you have certain metrics, actual numbers that are used to track every line item in your report, so that you can compare this month to next month to subsequent months like that on an ongoing basis. Okay, so I can't say enough how much data and its impacts can elevate your career. It is a non-starter. If you stay at the bottom of the food chain because you will not elevate yourself in acquiring, analyzing, and utilizing data for decision making, that's your own doing. Your career will be doomed. If you want to step up, embrace this skill we're talking about. What are the common challenges that we should be concerned about? Data silos, different fragmented in different sources. For example, if I have to go to the water meter to read water flow rates, and then go to the energy meter and read this and bring them into documents and write them down, and then mark the time I took the readings and the difference between the last time and this time, it becomes a little bit for some FMs, it's even difficult comparing the disco public supply of power versus generator, because you record them in two different places. So anytime your diesel cost goes up and somebody is asking why is your public supply bill also going up, you are struggling to explain what is happening, right? So that's one barrier you can overcome by putting both readings to show up in the same dashboard. You can compare them. And then data quality can also be an issue. People who put in wrong data, people who mess up Excel by putting words and numbers together in the same cell, people who don't value the quality of data, just put in any kind of numbers there, they create problem for data analytics. But once you cannot analyze dirty data, it's useless to you. And then people are often afraid of transparency. So, this resistance to change can come out of people not wanting the obvious. They're lazy and uncommitted. They're not doing much. They don't want it to be. They are wasteful. They don't want it to be brought to light. They just want to do whatever they like. So you need to cut through that, that misbehavior by encouraging and nudging people to adopt data. Because with data, once somebody says you're not doing anything, you're not adding any value, you cannot lie again. Yeah, there's no place to hide under. And then, of course, there is the need to acquire skills with data, and taking course is coming better. And that's why we say, when we say we show you a path to the top of your career in less than 5 years, very, very clearly, right? So it's your choice whether you want to climb on that ladder, and that first step starts from taking the FMMC. Okay, so there are advanced processes, and like I always tell everybody, technology has levels. I won't say go and adopt technology, advanced AI, machine learning, and IoT and smart buildings today to acquire the data. I would say start picking them from logbooks into spreadsheet, make the spreadsheet usable, become competent in using Excel. Once you have moved from there, then we can now say, okay, let's start talking IoT, smart buildings, AI, machine learning, and other platforms, because they are available. So it's a step-by-step approach. So becoming a master of FM and facility data, because that's the only way you can excel and succeed and get to the top of this career of facility management. So that's our session for today. If you have questions, I think we have covered what we have today. If you have questions, please just indicate and I will take your questions. Yes, Uche, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, for this very enlightening and engaging session. I think the importance of data-driven decisions cannot be overemphasized. Just like you said, even the slides you had to just run through, to the end. But it's very, very appreciated. The question I have is, for FMs that find themselves in environments where maybe traditional buildings, old buildings, and there's really that reluctance to pick on, this kind of initiatives. For the FM as a professional, what can such people do to upskill in that regard? Vis-a-vis IoTs, You talked about Excel. I mean, I've taken note of that from beginner, intermediate, and then advanced.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any suggestions or recommendations in this regard, sir. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I would always say start from where you are. Start picking data into notebooks and logbooks and spreadsheets and start using those data. If you have two technicians, for example, start tracking how long it takes them to fix work orders, how many work orders are done in a day, how many reworks happen when technicians go to work, how many of those jobs people call back. It will require some effort from you, just picking all that data, so that at the end of the day, you can use that, begin to use that data immediately. People will be amazed and they may want to challenge you and say, why are you making such recommendation or decision? You can now pull out documents and spreadsheets where you've done your analysis. It is when you begin to use and get value from data analytics that we have discussed, just starting with spreadsheet Excel, that's when you say, I want to implement 1, 2, 3 technology, low-hanging fruit, low-cost technology, and management will listen to you. If you have not done any manual data collection process, data analytics process, and you now start asking for IoT and AI-enabled software and the rest, they won't listen to you. You don't even have a case, right? So that's what I'm saying. Start with having work orders, printed work orders, that when they go, they sign, get clients to sign, clients tick how satisfied on a scale of 1 to 5 on 5 different items. You come with that work orders, you enter into a spreadsheet. You just keep doing that tracking. You take your meter readings, you enter into a spreadsheet, and you monitor things. NEPA brings their bill, you pick the kilowatts reading, you pick the amount, this is the rate. Your diesel purchase produces so many kilowatt hours. This is the kilowatt hour cost of your diesel production from your generator. You're creating data on your own and you're making recommendations, inferences based on that data. You start from there and you can move anywhere. You're welcome. Anayo.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, thank you for this awesome lecture. Actually, a privilege being here with you to hear all this wisdom you're giving to us today. You said something striking, like the guy that have been collecting data for 15 years without knowing how to use that data. That's actually true. Because some of us, we've been having that data. It's not like we don't keep the data. We have that data. Some of them are tracking it, paper, logging it. In fact, there are a lot of papers on the tables now because of logs from 2020, like over 4 years now. So how to use that data documented to give an insight into what is happening or what should be done and what not to be done is actually the problem. That
Yes.
transitioning stage from paper, from documenting, because I can remember when I resumed here many years ago, they don't have documentation for when the power goes off and when it comes in. They don't even know. They don't have documentation of, when they turn on the gen and when they switch off the gen. So when I introduced this, it was like a hard work, but I have to let them know that this is the basics. If we don't know how much diesel we use, how much electricity we pay for, then we cannot tell our power consumption for the month. We cannot tell how much we're spending. We cannot tell if someone is, stealing from there, how long that is lasting, all those kind of basic things. So now the issue is transitioning from the paperwork into data insights.
Yeah.
That is the issue. So I've always had this idea from day one because I told my technician the other day, it's not about you using tools to fix generator and everything. What you observe, can you present it to management? Can you translate that your handy skills into visual that, okay, from what has been happening, this is how it looks like. This is where it is right now. This is what has been observed. And from here, we can now project into these things. So what I'm just trying to say is, this is the area we need to focus. Transitioning from paperwork to
Yeah.
actual data presentation or
Yeah.
interpretation. You get
Yeah,
now,
sure.
you've mentioned some of them, the tools. You mentioned Excel. Excel is number one. So that's where
Yeah.
I'm going to now. Even when
Yeah.
we had this class with I know the other time, you said Excel is the basic. Many people don't really know how
Yeah.
powerful Excel is. And that's why I
Yeah.
also want to preach to them. Excel is the basic. But I know there's a programming part of Excel whereby you could write in some formulas, and that
Course.
formulas help
Of
to
course. Manipulate
um,
data, analyze,
manipulate
visualize.
data, you fix it in.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that is where we should focus on. I don't know
Yeah.
if there can be a training or there can be a sort of coordination of something in that aspect for
Mm.
we. Because let's start from there because obviously the Internet of Things and other softwares are quite expensive and management is not looking into it right now because of the way the country is, showing them shaking in dealing with business. So we to this our own low end of letting management know that okay, we understand the business and we can use some helpful, resourceful tools at our disposal to show
Sure, sure.
data-driven insights of our facility. You just said something striking to me now. The
Right.
carbon footprint of your facility. Wow, that is deep. Many don't know. Carbon
Yeah.
footprint, that's ESG. That's ESG. I also heard of it in recent time. I've started even doing some research in that aspect. You know, how you can help with the ecosystem. That's what it's basically telling. And
Yeah.
then our activities that we do affecting the ecosystem. Because
Sure.
if we want to go by law, ESG governance is growing, is improving right now. Many people don't know
Yeah.
many years, but now it's coming to stay. And then they go into facilities whereby you're using diesel generator as big as 500 kVA. They will ask you these questions,
Sure.
because if you don't know this impact, you don't know that you're destroying the environment. So in this regard, I don't know if there may be a special lecture or training on this purpose of ESG, because I believe that if people know how ESG affects the business, let me not say the facilities right now, because as facility is concerned, FM budget is one of the top two in the major companies' budgets.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the top two because
Yeah.
it's operational costs. So you now have base stations, like I manage base stations from both here to Sapele and the rest of them. So you could imagine when I'm doing budget of collective of the base stations. So I need to let them know the impact of what we are doing as
Exactly.
the effects and as we support them. So I don't know if there will be a training or a lecture on this ESG um, sustainability governance, or so
So,
that if
so,
we
so,
understand that,
yeah.
okay,
So the thing is this, there are so many training available out there, not necessarily customized to our industry. We at Max-Migold are listening to the voice of the customer to create some of the contents that we bring to you for free, that we add to our FM diploma, we're creating, add to our short courses. As we hear this kind of feedback, we will pencil it for action. My advice to facility managers, when you hear an opportunity to learn for free, take advantage of it. With the kind of effort we put into advertising this Thursday lunch hour, I expect the room to be filled up and overflowing by now. People who have come here and seen value for this, when coming back next time, bring 5 people, bring 10 people. That's one way to encourage us to keep investing into this. And then in addition to that, you are getting this free every Thursday thing, and you have a chance to earn a qualification, a professional designation through the FMMC diploma certification. Invest in your career advancement. Invest and then gain something. I want to emphasize that training, it's a two-way thing. The trainer and the trainee. Trainee must be as committed as the trainer for training to have the same impact. So thank you everyone for the time you have spent here. We appreciate your time. We look forward to another wonderful session with you next week, Thursday. And like I said, please bring everybody in the house into the session when you're coming. Have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.
thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye, sir.
Thank you.